The great ship of the Varl Empire hung above Earth like a dark moon. Inside, Admiral Gorath looked at the blue planet through the viewing glass. His gray skin stretched as he smiled. This would be easy. "Admiral, we have studied these creatures," said his assistant, a younger Varl named Tith. "They call themselves humans. They are very weak." Gorath nodded slowly. The Varl had conquered 47 planets. They were twice the size of humans. Their bones were like steel. Their skin could stop most weapons. For 3,000 years, no species had defeated them. "How weak?" Gorath asked. Tith pulled up the data on the screen. "Their bodies break easily, Admiral. They need to sleep for many hours each day. They cannot survive in cold or heat. They need to drink water constantly. They get sick from tiny creatures they cannot even see." Gorath laughed. It was a deep, rumbling sound. "This will not even be a war. Send the message. Tell them to surrender their planet." Down on Earth, in a small military base in Korea, Captain Park Yuna stood before her team. She was a small woman with short black hair and calm eyes. Around her sat 20 soldiers, all looking at the screens showing the alien ship. "They want us to surrender," Yuna said. Her voice was quiet but strong. "The whole planet. They gave us 1 day to decide." A young soldier named Kim Tae raised his hand. "Captain, what do we know about them?" Yuna clicked a button. Images appeared on the screen. The aliens were massive, nearly 3 meters tall. Their bodies looked like they were made of stone and muscle. They call themselves the Varl. They have conquered many planets. They are stronger than us, faster than us. They live longer than us. The room was silent. Fear hung in the air like smoke. Another soldier, Lee Hana, spoke up. "Then how do we fight them?" Yuna looked at her team. These were not special soldiers. They were ordinary people. Farmers' sons, teachers' daughters, students who had joined the army to pay for school. But she saw something in their eyes. It was not hope. It was something older, something that had kept humans alive for thousands of years. "We fight them the way we have always fought," Yuna said. "We fight them together. We fight them until we cannot fight anymore. And then we fight some more." The next morning, the Varl ships descended. They expected the humans to be waiting with white flags. Instead, they found empty cities. The streets were quiet. The buildings were dark. Admiral Gorath walked through a place called Seoul with 50 of his best warriors. "Where are they hiding?" he growled. Then the first explosion came. A building to his left erupted in fire. 3 of his warriors fell. Gorath spun around, trying to find the enemy. But he saw nothing, only smoke and dust. "They are attacking us?" Tith sounded confused. "But they cannot win." Another explosion, this time from below. The ground opened up, and 2 more warriors disappeared into a pit filled with sharp metal. Gorath's eyes went wide. They planned this. They knew we were coming here. From the shadows of a broken building, Yuna watched through her telescope. Her hands were steady as she spoke into her radio. "Team 2, hit them from the east. Team 3, prepare the second trap." Around her, soldiers moved like ghosts. They were scared. She could see it in their faces. But they did not run. They had learned something that the Varl did not understand. Humans had been fighting stronger enemies since the beginning of their history. They had fought lions with sticks. They had fought the cold with fire. They had fought disease with medicine they created from nothing. The Varl were strong, but strength was not everything. Kim Tae ran through the underground tunnels beneath the city. His heart was beating fast. In his hands, he carried a device that could knock out the aliens' communication systems. If he could get close enough to their command ship, he could blind them. He was just one man, small, weak by Varl standards. But he kept running. Behind him, Lehanna provided cover fire. She was not a good shot. She had only been in the army for 2 years. But she did not need to hit the aliens. She just needed to make them afraid. And fear was something humans understood very well. Above the city, Admiral Gorath received reports from all across the planet. The humans were not surrendering. In every city, in every town, in every village, they were fighting back. They used bombs. They used traps. They used tricks that the Varl had never seen before. "This is impossible," Gorath whispered. "They are weak. They should have given up." Tiff looked at his datapad. His face was troubled. "Admiral, I found something strange in their history. These humans, they have been fighting wars for their entire existence. They fight each other. They fight nature. They fight everything. So, they've never stopped fighting. Not once. In 10,000 years of their recorded history, there has never been a single day without a war somewhere on their planet." Gorath felt something cold in his chest. It was a feeling he had not experienced in centuries. It was fear. On the ground, Una smiled as she watched another Varl patrol fall into a trap. The aliens were stronger. They were faster. They would probably win in the end. But they would pay for every step they took on human soil. They would pay with blood and time and lives. And maybe, just maybe, that would be enough. The weak ones were fighting back. And they had only just begun. 3 weeks had passed since the Varl invasion began. Admiral Gorath stood in his command ship, looking at the maps of Earth. Red marks covered the surface like a disease. Each mark was a place where his forces had met resistance. "We have lost 400 warriors," Tith reported. His voice was tired. "The humans keep attacking at night. They attack when we eat. They attack when we rest." Gorath slammed his fist on the table. "How? They are small and weak. Their weapons barely scratch our armor." "They do not try to scratch our armor anymore," Tith said. "They attack our supply lines. They poison our water. They destroy our communication towers. They fight without honor." "Honor?" Gorath's eyes were dark. What did these creatures know about honor? In a hidden bunker beneath the mountains, Captain Park Una studied the enemy. Her team had grown. What started as 20 soldiers had become 200. People came from everywhere. Old men who had fought in past wars. Young women who had never held a gun before. Children who carried messages through tunnels too small for adults. "Captain," said a voice behind her. It was Sergeant O'Day, a middle-aged man with gray hair and strong hands. "We caught another one." Una turned. 2 soldiers were bringing in a Varl prisoner. The alien was wounded. Blue blood dripped from a cut on its arm. Even injured and sitting down, it was taller than any human in the room. "Leave us," Una said. The soldiers left. Una sat down across from the alien. She looked into its yellow eyes without fear. "You speak our language?" she asked. The Varl nodded slowly. "We studied you before we came. You are Captain Park, the one they call the Ghost." Una did not smile. "Why did your people come here?" "Because we can. Because you are weak. Because your planet has resources we want." The alien's voice was deep like thunder. "You cannot win this war. You must know this." "Maybe," Una said. "But we will fight anyway. Why?" The alien seemed truly confused. "Your people die every day. Your cities burn. Your children cry. For what? You will all be slaves or corpses in the end." Una leaned forward. "Let me tell you a story. Long ago, my grandmother lived in a small village. Enemy soldiers came. They had better weapons. More men. Everyone said the village would fall. But my grandmother and the other villagers fought back. They fought for 5 years. They lost everything. Their homes, their families, their hope. But they kept fighting. Did they win? No, Una said simply. They lost. The enemy took the village. But those 5 years cost the enemy so much that they could not hold it. They left after one winter. The villagers returned and rebuilt. The Varl was quiet for a long moment. You fight knowing you will lose? We fight because fighting is what we do. We fight because surrender is not in our blood. We fight because every day you spend fighting us is a day you cannot spend conquering others. Una stood up. You think we are weak because we break easily. But we have been breaking and healing for 10,000 years. We are very good at it. Miles away, Kimte was leading a small team through the sewers of Bizen. The city had fallen to the Varl, but the resistance had not stopped. They moved in shadows. They lived in holes. They ate whatever they could find. How much further? Whispered Choi Su, a young woman with dirty face and bright eyes. 200 meters, Tae answered. The Varl have a fuel station there. If we destroy it, their vehicles will stop working. And then? And then we run. And we do it again tomorrow. And the day after. Until they leave or until we die. Sue nodded. She was scared. They were all scared. But fear was like an old friend now. They had learned to live with it. To use it. Fear kept them sharp. Fear kept them alive. The explosion that night lit up the sky over Bizen. 14 Varl vehicles were destroyed. The fuel burned for 3 days. Admiral Gorath lost his supply line to the southern part of the country. In his command ship, Gorath received more bad news. Admiral, the High Council is asking questions. They want to know why this conquest is taking so long. Tell them these humans are different. Different how? Gorath thought about it. He had conquered many species. Some were stronger than humans. Some were smarter. Some had better technology. But all of them had one thing in common. When they saw they could not win, they surrendered. They accepted their fate. They bowed to the stronger power. These humans did not bow. They did not surrender. They did not stop. Every time he thought he had won, they appeared again. Like insects. Like a disease. Like something that could not be killed. They do not know when to give up, Gorath finally said. They see death coming, and they run toward it with weapons in their hands. They are not brave. They are something else. Something worse. What, Admiral? Gorath looked at the blue planet below. For the first time in his long life, he was not sure of victory. Stubborn, he said. They are too stubborn to die. Back in the mountain bunker, Una received a message from resistance groups around the world. The Americans were holding. The Europeans were holding. The Africans were holding. Everyone was fighting. Everyone was dying. Everyone was refusing to give up. She looked at her soldiers. They were tired, hungry, scared, but they were still here, still ready to fight. Tomorrow, she told them, we hit their main base in Seoul. Many of us will die, but we will hurt them. We will show them that every step they take on our world will cost them blood. No one argued. No one ran. They just nodded and began preparing their weapons. The weak ones were still fighting, and they were learning how to win. 2 months into the war, something changed. The Varl were no longer advancing. They held their positions, but they did not move forward. Admiral Gorath had pulled his forces back to the major cities. The countryside belonged to the humans again. In the mountain bunker, Una looked at the latest reports. Her eyes were tired but sharp. Around her, the resistance had grown into an army. 5,000 soldiers. Not trained warriors like the Varl, but farmers and teachers and students who had learned to kill. "They are afraid," said O'Day, studying the enemy positions. "Look at how they group together. They do not spread out anymore." Una nodded. They learned that lesson the hard way. The lesson had been taught in blood. When the Varl spread out, human teams would attack from all sides. They would hit and run, strike and disappear. The aliens were strong in open battle, but they could not fight shadows. They could not kill ghosts. Kinte walked in, covered in mud and sweat. He had just returned from a mission in the north. "Captain, we found something. The Varl are building something big near their main ship. Some kind of weapon. What kind of weapon? We do not know. But it is large. Larger than anything they have used before." Una felt cold. The Varl had been holding back. They had tried to conquer Earth with ground troops because they wanted the planet intact. They wanted the resources, the water, the land. But if they were building a large weapon, maybe they had decided that destroying was easier than conquering. "We need to stop them," Una said. "Whatever it takes." That night, she called a meeting with all resistance leaders. They connected through old radio systems that the Varl could not trace. Voices came from every continent. American commanders, European fighters, African warriors, Asian soldiers, all united by one enemy. "The weapon will be ready in 2 weeks," Una told them. "If we do not destroy it, they will use it to burn our cities. Maybe our whole planet." An American voice spoke through the static. "We can send 300 fighters to help." "We have 200 ready in Europe," said another voice. "Africa can send 150. One by one, the humans committed their forces. It was not much. Against the Varl's technology and strength, it was almost nothing. But it was everything they had. "We attack in 10 days, Una decided. "We hit them with everything, all at once, from all sides." The days passed quickly. Una trained her soldiers without rest. She showed them how to move in the dark, how to use the terrain, how to fight an enemy twice their size. She taught them the only advantage humans had over the Varl. "They are individuals," she explained to her team. "Each Varl warrior fights for himself, for glory, for rank. But we fight together. We are one body with many hands. When one of us falls, another takes their place. When one of us is weak, others carry them. That is how we survive. That is how we win." Choi Su raised her hand. "Captain, do you really think we can win?" Una was quiet for a moment. She thought about all the people who had died, all the cities that had burned, all the families that had been destroyed. She thought about her own family, lost in the first week of the invasion. "I do not know if we can win," she said honestly. "But I know we can make them pay. I know we can show them that humans are not easy prey. And maybe, if we hurt them enough, they will decide that Earth is not worth the cost." Lee Hanna nodded slowly. "That is good enough for me." On the Varl command ship, Admiral Gareth watched the weapon being built. It was called the Sun Hammer. 1 blast could turn a city to ash. 10 blasts could make the planet unlivable. "The High Council has approved its use," Tith informed him. "They are tired of waiting. They want this war to end." Gareth felt no joy. He had conquered planets before. He had destroyed species before. But something about these humans troubled him. They were weak, yes, but they fought with a fire he had never seen. They cared for each other in ways the Varl did not understand. When one human fell, others would risk their lives to save them. Even strangers, even enemies. Why do they do that? Gorath asked one day, watching footage of humans carrying their wounded through enemy fire. "Do what, Admiral?" risk death for others. The weak ones. The injured ones. What is the point? Tith checked his data. Their records say it is something called love. They believe that each life has value, that no one should be left behind. Foolish, Gora said, but his voice lacked conviction. The night before the attack, Yuna could not sleep. She walked through the camp, looking at her soldiers. Some were sleeping. Some were writing letters to families they might never see again. Some were praying to gods they hoped would listen. She stopped by Kim-tae, who was checking his weapons. Are you ready? He looked up at her. His eyes were calm. I was scared at first, Captain. When the aliens came, I wanted to run. I wanted to hide. But now, he shook his head. Now I just want to make sure my friends survive. If I die doing that, it is okay. That is what makes us human, Yuna said softly. We fight for each other. Not for glory. Not for power. For each other. The sun rose over the mountains. 5,000 human soldiers moved toward the Varl base. They knew many of them would die. They knew the odds were against them. But they went anyway. Because that is what humans do. They fight impossible battles. They stand against impossible odds. They refuse to give up, even when giving up makes sense. The weak ones were about to show their strength. The attack began at dawn. 5,000 human soldiers moved like water through the broken streets of Seoul. They came from underground. They came from the rooftops. They came from every shadow and every corner. The Varl had never seen anything like it. Captain Park Yuna led the main assault team. 300 soldiers followed her toward the weapon site. Her heart was beating fast, but her hands were steady. She had trained for this moment. They all had. Team 2, go left, she ordered through her radio. Team 3, cover our back. Team 4, you know what to do. The Varl defenders were ready, but they were not ready for this. The humans attacked in waves. When one group was pushed back, another took its place. When one path was blocked, they found another. They were like water finding its way through rock. Kim-tae ran through the chaos with a bag of explosives on his back. His mission was simple. Get to the weapon. Plant the bombs. Die if he had to. He did not think about death. He thought about his family, his friends, the little village where he grew up, the small things that made life worth fighting for. A Varl warrior stepped in front of him. The alien was huge. Its armor was thick. Its weapon was ready. Tae was small and tired and afraid. But he did not stop. He ducked under the alien's swing and kept running. A second later, Lee Hannah shot the warrior from behind. Keep going, she shouted. I will cover you. Tae ran. He heard Hannah's gun firing behind him. He heard her scream. He did not look back. He could not look back. She had given her life for the mission. He would not waste it. On the command ship, Admiral Gorath watched the battle with growing dread. His forces were winning, technically. They were killing more humans than they were losing. But the humans kept coming. Every time he thought they would retreat, they pushed forward, harder. Admiral, they have reached the outer wall of the weapon site, Tith reported. Should we activate the Sunhammer? It is not ready. It is 90% ready. We can fire it at reduced power. Gorath hesitated. Firing the weapon now would destroy the attacking force. It would also destroy half of Seoul and kill thousands of his own warriors. The Varl did not sacrifice their own. It was against their way. But these humans had pushed him to the edge. No, he decided. Send more troops. Stop them with soldiers. On the ground, Yuna and her team had reached the weapon. It was massive. A tower of metal and light that reached toward the sky. Around it, Hundreds of Varl warriors formed the final defense. "This is it," Una said to her remaining soldiers. "Only 80 were left. 80 against hundreds. We do not need to win. We just need to give Tay enough time to plant the bombs." Choi Su stood beside her. The young woman's face was covered in blood and dust. Her hands were shaking, but her eyes were clear. "For Earth," she said. "For each other," Una corrected. "That is what matters. Not the planet. Not the victory. Each other." They charged. The battle at the weapon site was brutal. Humans and Varl fought hand to hand. The aliens were stronger, but the humans were desperate. They used knives when their guns ran empty. They used their hands when their knives broke. They used their bodies as shields to protect their friends. Una fought beside her soldiers. She was not a great fighter. She was small and tired and wounded in 3 places. But she kept standing. She kept swinging. She kept shouting orders and encouragement. "Hold the line. Do not let them through." One by one, her soldiers fell. Choi Su went down with a Varl blade in her shoulder. Oh, Day was crushed under an alien's foot. But for every human that fell, they took a Varl with them. And they bought time. Precious seconds. Precious minutes. Deep inside the weapon, Kim Tae placed the last bomb. His hands were covered in his own blood. A Varl blade had caught his side, and he could feel his life draining away. But the bombs were set. The mission was complete. He looked at the timer. 30 seconds. He could try to run. He could try to escape. But his legs would not move. He was too tired, too broken. So he sat down against the cold metal wall and closed his eyes. He thought about his mother, her warm smile, her soft voice. He thought about the small restaurant where she made the best soup in the village. He thought about all the simple, beautiful things that made human life worth living. "I am sorry, Mother," he whispered. "I will not be coming home." Outside, Una saw the explosion before she heard it. A ball of fire erupted from the heart of the weapon. The tower shook, cracked, began to fall. "Get back!" She screamed. "Everyone get back!" The humans retreated. The Varl retreated. Everyone ran from the collapsing giant. When the dust settled, the Sunhammer was nothing but twisted metal and smoking ruins. On the command ship, Admiral Gorath watched in silence. The weapon was gone. Months of work. Destroyed by creatures that could not even survive a cold winter without clothing. "Admiral," Tith said quietly, "what do we do now?" Gorath did not answer. He was thinking about what he had seen. The humans had sent their soldiers to certain death, and they had gone willingly. They had sacrificed themselves for others, for strangers, for an idea called hope. The Varl did not have a word for that kind of sacrifice. They did not understand it. And now, for the first time, Gorath realized that this lack of understanding might cost them the war. On the ground, Una counted her survivors. 12 soldiers remained from the 300 she had led. 12 out of 300. Around her, the other teams reported similar losses. The human army was broken, but the weapon was destroyed. Earth would survive another day. "Did we win?" asked a young soldier, barely old enough to hold a gun. Una looked at the burning ruins of the Sunhammer. She thought about Tay and Hannah and all the others who had given everything. "Not yet," she said. "But we did not lose. And as long as we are still standing, they have not won either." 6 months after the destruction of the Sunhammer, Admiral Gorath stood before the Varl High Council. The chamber was vast and cold, filled with the most powerful leaders of the Empire. They looked at Gorath with disappointment and anger. "You have failed," said the Supreme Commander. 6 months on a single planet. Against creatures you called weak. Explain yourself. Gorath stood tall. His pride demanded it. But inside, he felt something he had never felt before. Doubt. "The humans are not what we expected," he said. "They are weak, yes. Their bodies break easily. They die from things that would not harm us. But they have something we did not consider." "What?" Gorath searched for the right words. "They care for each other. Not just their families. Not just their friends. All of them. When one human suffers, others feel it. When one human dies, others remember. They fight not for power or glory. They fight for each other. And that makes them—" He paused. "That makes them dangerous." The Supreme Commander laughed. "Dangerous? They are insects. Insects that have cost us 2,000 warriors. Insects that destroyed our greatest weapon. Insects that have been fighting for 6 months without surrender." Gorath's voice was heavy. "I have conquered 47 planets. I have never lost. But I am telling you now, this planet cannot be conquered. Not without losses we cannot accept." The chamber was silent. The High Council members looked at each other. They did not like what they were hearing, but they could not ignore it either. 2,000 Varl warriors was a heavy price. The Empire had other enemies, other battles. They could not afford to lose more soldiers on a small blue planet filled with soft creatures. "What do you suggest?" the Supreme Commander finally asked. "Leave," Gorath said. "Find another planet. There are billions of worlds in this galaxy. We do not need this one." On Earth, the humans waited. They did not know what was happening in the Varl High Council. They only knew that the attacks had stopped. The alien ships had pulled back. Something was changing. Captain Park Yuna stood on a hill overlooking Seoul. The city was in ruins. Most of its buildings were gone. Its streets were broken. But people were already coming back. Families with children. Old couples holding hands. Young people carrying tools to rebuild. "Do you think they will leave?" asked a young soldier who had survived the battle at the Sun Hammer. His name was Sho Hyan. He was 17 years old. He had seen more death in 6 months than most people see in a lifetime. Yuna watched a mother walk through the rubble with her daughter. The child was laughing at something. In the middle of destruction, she had found a reason to laugh. That was humanity, finding light in the darkest places. "I do not know," Yuna admitted. "But I know that we will be here either way, fighting, surviving, rebuilding. It is what we do." 1 week later, the Varl ships lifted off from Earth. They rose into the sky like dark birds, leaving behind the planet they had failed to conquer. Across the world, humans watched them go. No one cheered. No one celebrated. They had lost too much for celebration. In his command ship, Admiral Gorath took one last look at the blue planet. He thought about everything he had seen. The humans fighting with sticks against his armored warriors. The humans running into fire to save their wounded. The humans dying with smiles on their faces because they knew their sacrifice mattered. "They are the strangest species I have ever encountered," he said to Tith. "Weak in body, strong in spirit. I do not understand them. Perhaps that is why we lost, Admiral." Gorath nodded slowly. "Perhaps. The universe is vast. There will be other planets, easier conquests. But I do not think I will forget these humans. I do not think any Varl will." The ships disappeared into the darkness of space. Earth was free. In the ruins of Seoul, Yuma gathered her remaining soldiers. They were tired and broken. Many were wounded. All had lost someone they loved. But they were alive. And that was enough. "The war is over," she told them. "But our work is just beginning. We have a world to rebuild. Cities to restore. Families to heal. It will take years. maybe generations. But we will do it, because that is who we are. Oh, Day was alive, barely. He had been found under the rubble with both legs broken. He would never walk again. But he was smiling. "Captain, do you think they will come back?" "Maybe," Una said. "Maybe not them. Maybe others. The universe is large. We are small. But we have learned something important." "What is that?" Una looked at her soldiers, at the city rising from the ashes, at the people rebuilding their lives. "We are small. We are weak. We break and we bleed and we die. But we also love and we fight and we hope. And as long as we do that, no one can truly defeat us." The sun was setting over Earth, the first sunset in 6 months without alien ships in the sky. Around the world, people stopped what they were doing to watch. They held hands. They cried. They remembered those who had been lost. And then, slowly, they began to rebuild. Years later, a monument was built in the center of Seoul. It showed a human hand reaching up toward the stars. At the base of the monument, words were carved in 100 languages. The words said, "We are small. We are weak. We are afraid. But we stand together. And together, we are strong enough." The Varl never returned. But stories of Earth spread across the galaxy. Stories of the weak ones who refused to fall. Stories of creatures who loved so much that they would die for strangers. Stories of a small blue planet that taught the universe that strength is not about muscles or weapons or technology. Strength is about heart. About hope. About standing up when everyone tells you to stay down. The humans had shown the galaxy something new. Something powerful. Something that would echo through the stars for thousands of years. The weak ones were the strongest of all.